Welcome, people. It is I, Cribbs136. Sorry, I had to do water real quick. I am sick, but I'm going to try to bang this patch out because you know me, I am dedicated to the patch. It is gigantic, so good luck to me making it through. We'll see what happens. Okay, we're going to try to go fast, but you know as well as I do that's not going to happen, so it is what it is, right? Okay. Oopsie. Okay, neutral creep. There's a lot of changes, by the way. There's some UI changes. I don't think they talk about them here, so can I actually find where that was? They talked about a couple UI updates. I wasn't sure where it was. Bugs, obviously, they're not there. Where is the... I swear there was a... It was like talking about some UI changes. I don't see them here, but don't put that. If I can find them, that would be nice. No, okay. Basically, there's just a lot of UI changes to make the game a lot more accessible. Suffice to say. Alright, neutral creep bounty decreased by 2 across the board. So this basically means that jungling is supposed to be less efficient as far as farming is concerned. It's minor, all things considered, but it just makes it more likely that farming lane is a better prospect. Neutral creeps are no longer affected by mines, graveyard, I have no idea what that is, statue, and well buffs. I guess that just... What the fuck is statue? Is that Earth Spirit? I don't even understand. I know what mines do, basically. So, if you put certain abilities near creeps, they would receive buffs. And they're like, nah, we're not doing that. So I guess if you were trying to buff your lane creeps, they're like, nope, no thank you. Sorry, neutral creeps. Super creeps and mega creeps attack damage was increased by 5. So that means once you get a lane, it's easier for that lane to push, because it's going to destroy their creeps faster. And it's harder for a single support to stop them, because obviously they do a lot of damage. I like this a lot because it incentivizes a quick end, because this means that obviously as you're taking lanes, it's faster to get towards that ancient, destroy the tier 4 towers, etc. So that's good changes. Courier health is replaced with attacks to kill. That just means that basically, you know, end of game, if you hit it with absolutely anything, it would die because everybody's damage is high enough. But now, it takes 1 melee hero attack always, which means that if you were like an ogre at level 1, you could still kill it instantly if you just smack it once, which is nice. 2 ranged hero attacks no matter what, meaning that even if you were drow fed out of your mind, you have to hit it twice, which is obviously shitty if you're ranged. And 6 creeper tapper attacks, which means that like mega creeps wouldn't necessarily hit it once and it blows up, which stops that too. I don't know if this matters terribly, but it's nice. Courier can no longer be healed, and they can't regenerate health except in Fountain. That just stops you from healing your Courier via, like, I'm pretty sure you could heal it a couple ways. I think you could heal it with a few niche abilities. So just removing that, saying, no. If they got your Courier, they got your Courier. Fountain now deals 25% splash damage in a radius around the target. That's going to stop Meepo from coming into Fountain and throwing off aggro. And it's going to stop multiple people from Fountain diving because they might all get hit. That kind of dealio. I don't think this fixes the core problem of it not doing pure damage and not piercing evasion and etc., but it's at least a step in the correct direction, so I'll take it for what it's worth. They added 2 Watchers in the mines and well area. I'd have to look at the map to find out where those are, but Watchers are great anyway. I like when they give you some amount of vision you can control on the map. You also get gifts now based on your behavior score. I have no idea where that went. That was so not helpful. That would be in treasure. I don't want any purchasable, thank you. I just want to look at my most, there you go. So it's something I already, I guess, have pieces of. So it implies an AA set. I mean, whatever. I guess there's some opportunity to get some presents here. Back to patch, sorry. Had to... I can actually just sit back, I think. Here we go. Teleport times to outpost in the Radiant and Dire jungles was decreased from 6 to 4. So basically, I'm thinking Those are the ones that are not near Rashawn. These are the other outposts. Because there's two, I believe. There's the ones that are near Rashawn, and then the ones that are in the other area. So it's supposed to make it so it's more rewarding if someone's in your area to teleport in, because it's easier to get there quickly, which is nice. But still hard to teleport into like Rashawn or something. Twin gates now cost 75 mana to prevent people from abusing them by going in, out, which I've actually seen in higher level games as well. So now it's going to cost you, so eventually you can't keep doing that. Units without mana, which would mean if you had some summonable or something, can use the Twin Gate for free. The Tormentor can now no longer have less than 0 armor. 0 is its bottom. I don't think that matters tremendously, and the reason why I say that is because the armor mechanics in DotA give basically every point of armor gives you 6% effective health for your versus physical. When you go negative, it's actually really diminishing, and it doesn't affect it at 6%. It's much less. It's like super diminishing. So like if you have 10 armor, you have 60% increased effectiveness on your health against physical. If you have negative 10, you lose like 10%. So like the difference is pretty staggering. So I don't know why that matters, but sure, whatever. Tormentor now has ability, the Shining. It deals 30 damage per second every 0.2 seconds, 6 damage per tick. Distributing it evenly among all units within range, meaning that naturally it's now going to hit like a Radiance Aura, which, since you can split it, it wouldn't affect if you had a whole team, you barely feel it, but one hero will now get a 30, basically half Radiance Aura just hitting them the entire time they're there. Add a new Rashawn ability. I've read some of these, I just like touched them, but I didn't read a lot. Roar of Retribution. If attacked by the team that last killed them, so that means that, like, let's say Radiant kills Rashawn, right? And when Rashawn comes back up, Radiant goes to kill Rashawn again, because they have map control, right? They can just do that. They're ahead. When they get Rashawn's health below 80%, which is right here, right? He triggers a roar that damages all units that are basically in the pit, 900 AoE, or right outside the pit. A roar that's heard globally, meaning the enemy team knows you're doing Rashawn, which is also a really big weakness. It applies a debuff on them that increases incoming damage by 25%, which means if the enemy units want to TP in, everybody now on the team taking Rashawn takes extra damage. It also does 50 damage, just flat. The damage bonus per minute is 10, meaning that 50 damage is going to go up to 60 after, a minute, right? So it's going to start getting to be a pretty big debuff. It only lasts 8 seconds. The cooldown is 20. I assume that just means that if you stopped doing Rashawn after the roar and you wanted to go back in there, it would basically just be ready again. It's 20 so that it doesn't double roar, which would be unfair, because Rashawn does regenerate health, so it would be really shitty if you did it. He roared, you guys all got stunned, and then immediately once you handle the threat, you went to hit Rashawn again. If he roared a second time, just dealing damage to your team, that would be kind of lame. So I think it's to protect from that double roar issue. New Rashawn drop, it's Rashawn's banner. It creates a banner anywhere on the map that buffs allied lane creeps for 45 seconds, which is a long time, once they walk within a 750 radius, increasing their health by 75% and damage by 50. The banner lasts for 5 minutes, but it can be destroyed with 6 hero attacks. Creep attacks count as 1/4 of a hero attack. Item is consumed on use. Placing the banner informs an enemy team about its location, meaning that they know where it is. Multiple banners do not stack. Bounty on kill is 200 gold. So basically, this is a way that if you're ahead and you take Rashawn and you want to push, you could put it behind your team and use it to buff all your creeps going to the tower, right? So you want to break high ground. You want to take a tier 3 tower, boom, you put the banner behind you, that way they can't get it easily. If they do want to commit on it, you can kill the hero committing on it, that way at least you've got something for your exchange. But all your creeps will be doing a lot of damage and they're harder to clear, and that's going to really help that high ground push. Starting from the second death, Rashawn drops Cheese on Radiant, and Rashawn's banner when killed on Dire. Third death, he drops Refresher on Radiant, and Aghan's Blessing on the Dire side. Double Damage Rune was renamed to Amplify Damage. Okay, I don't really care, I'll keep it at the top of the screen, I was just thinking. Base damage bonus was decreased from 100 to 80%. Now also provides 15% spell amp. So basically the cool thing here is that even though you do less right click damage, that's probably a good thing, because right now it's really lame when you're really ahead and an enemy hero gets a double damage and then instantly kills your team. So that's going to be less common, but also now that it provides spell amp, a caster can grab it like a Zeus. And 50% spell amp is a pretty big number, and it's really cool to be able to be like, look, Zeus is our biggest damage dealer, give him the amplify damage rune, we'll see how that goes. So I think it's a nice change. Invisibility rune now grants 25% damage reduction while invis, plus 5% for each full rune cycle. So basically what that means, the full rune cycle, is that it goes through each rune in a random order, but it can't repeat until it's hit every rune, and then it's allowed to repeat again. So what it means is that once the next invis rune comes up, this 25% will go up to 30. And this takes time, right? This takes about 10 minutes, so it's not really going to be where it's like, oh my god, 100%, like that's not going to happen. But it's also only when you're invis, which anything you do breaks invis, attacks, spells, whatever. So it's not like that big of a deal, but it just means if you get caught and you have an invis rune, you can use it to try to get away. Haste rune now lasts for 22 seconds, plus 3 seconds for each rune cycle. I think haste rune used to last longer. I think it was about 30. So now it's less, but it will cycle up. It's supposed to make these power runes feel meaningful near the end of the game, and I kind of like that. Arcade rune cooldown reduction was decreased by 5. It was probably too strong to have an arcade rune, so I like this. Regen rune is no longer disabled by taking damage. Instead, it lowers the regen rate by 1% for HP and MP per second, meaning that if you get hit, you start regening less and less and less the more you get hit. I think that's probably too good, because this means that someone like Storm can activate it, zip right in, and just start going, and he knows that that regen rune is going to still be happening. So now, instead of just hitting him once to stop the regen, you actually have to commit on him. Now, granted, you're going to commit on Storm anyway, most likely, but I can just see some abuses to this concept. Remove a tree in the area. They just remove some trees. I don't know how it feels. I'd have to see them. A bunch of trees. Add support for a new bonus. AoE radius. Affects area of effect. Increases width and radius of spells. Does not affect lengths and ranges that are already increased by Aether Lens. Also ignores auras and passive aura-like components of some active spells. Earns soul gathering radius. And silence in steel range. Currently, this effect is provided only by Bloodstone. Okay, so basically what that means is that now things like Centaur Stomp, right? Aether Lens doesn't increase Centaur Stomp's radius. A lot of spells are like that. Like, think about Earthshaker's ult. It doesn't work to my understanding, if I'm correct. People can correct me, please, if you have to. Point that out. But as far as I'm aware, it doesn't affect those. So now they're allowing some system which you can. And right now it's only Bloodstone that it increases it. But they're basically just trying to see how that might work. So right now I think Earthshaker is going to want a Bloodstone to increase Echo, because it's going to increase the Echo damage if it catches more units. Fix long-standing and game-breaking bug with a chance for hero melee damage block was 49% instead of 50%. That's hilarious. Fix Lotus Pool. Lotuses not spawning at the exact minute mark. Oh my god, I complained about this for so fucking long. Yo, one of the best quality of life changes. It's so stupid. It doesn't affect, like, the meta? No. But man, did it suck that it just randomly spawned 2 seconds after. Okay, so we have a lot of jungle item and regular item changes coming up, okay? So let's get into that. So, returning item, Ring of Tarask. It now is a basic secret shop item, meaning you have to buy it in secret stop. It provides 12 health regen, which is enormous. It is 1800 gold, which means it's similar to a Vanguard. So Vanguard gives like 5.5 HP regen, but it has the block chance and has some item build out of it, right? It builds into Abyssal, it builds into Crimson. I don't know if any of that's changed. I have not read all these. But prior, right? So you could get more health regen, but you wouldn't get the block. Tierra of Selamene. That is how you pronounce that, because that's what Morana says. It's a new basic secret shop item. It adds 6 mana regen, same cost, right? Because mana regen is more powerful than health regen in a lot of contexts. Conda. It's a Crystallis, Phylactery, and a Recipe. So Phylactery is getting some more use as a long-term item. This is a thing, right? 50 damage, 200 health, 200 mana, and 8 attributes, which is rather large, but it is an expensive item. It is a 5,000 gold item. It gives a critical strike, 30% chance to deal 160, which is, you know, nice. It's a weak crit, but... Passive and power spell. The spell is similar to Phylactery's passive, but bonus damage is rescaled from flat 100 to 100 plus 75% of your attack damage. Meaning that, like, if you were a bounty hunter, which is exactly what Infuri said, now you're going to want to hit someone with track because it's going to do 100 plus a good chunk of your damage, which is going to be much bigger, and you could just, like, spam it on people to lower them. I don't like it at all. I hate this item already. Parasma. It's a Witchblade, Mystic Staff, so it's really expensive. It gives a lot of int, a lot of attack speed, armor, and attack projectile speed, which is fine. Magic Corruption. All attacks apply negative 20% magic resistance debuff on enemies. That's kind of like Mage Slayer, right? Or is that... I don't remember what that does. Maybe that decreases their damage. It doesn't matter. Similar concept. Only 4 seconds. And the Witchblade passive is still there, but intelligence multiplier is increased from 0.75 to 1, and the cooldown is decreased from 9 to 7, making it procs more often and for more damage. So basically, it's an upgrade from Witchblade. Anybody who would want to buy a Witchblade might do this instead. Instead of buying the other Witchblade upgrade, which is Revenants, this is probably just better, honestly. It's gonna, if you're an interior, it's gonna give you more damage, really good attack speed, survivability, and better effects. Javelin is now cheaper, but they decreased some of the pierce damage by 10. That's probably fair, since you really buy Javelin to build into something else. So unless something was changed, it is going to decrease the cost of items, right? Quarterstaff is out. That's fine. No one bought it just for a quarterstaff. Ring of Health, now you can buy from the shop. Ultimate Orb cost was increased by 750. In exchange, it gives 5 more attributes. That is really painful to buy. That is a really painful item. Voidstone you can also buy in base. Arcane Boots. This is a really big deal, by the way. Recipe was changed. It now requires Boots of Speed, Ring of Basilius, and a recipe. The thing is, the most expensive part was the 800 gold. The stone, whatever the fuck, I already forgot what it is. Arcane Stone, whatever was in it before. That was a really big cost for a support to save up. Now it's smaller pieces and it's easier to buy before you die, even though the total cost is unchanged. No longer provides mana, but it does provide mana regen, which is probably better for that support. Now it's Basilius Aura, which is more mana regen to all allies, right? It can no longer be disassembled, though, meaning that when you're buying Arcane Boots, you have to stick with your Arcane Boots. You can't change it to an Aether Lens later. That is a weakness for sure. That is aggravating. This is going to mean you have to commit. It's going to stop heroes like Zeus, who are so strong with having Arcane Boots because of the active, right? Giving the 175 mana, from using it just for a little while to then disassemble to get Aether and Travels, which I like, right? So like the cores got a nerf, but a lot of supports, I mean, some of them got Aether anyway, but I like it. It's like, keep your Arcane Boots. It always pissed me off anyway, because none of my supports had Arcane Boots anymore. It's like, I still need mana, you know? So I like it, being someone who doesn't buy them often. Bloodstone now provides 75 AoE increase, which we talked about. We already knew that was going to happen. That's the only change. So it's just a better item. Bloodthorn. The total cost increased by 25. Okay, because it changed what's in it. So Orchid was always part of it. They added a Javelin and a Hyperstone, which means they removed the Crystallis and whatever, Demon Edge? Is that what was in it? I don't remember. Intelligence bonus was decreased dramatically, which is going to hurt int heroes, right? Mana regen bonus was decreased by 2. Damage bonus was decreased by 25. Health regen bonus was increased by a little bit. But the attack speed went up dramatically. 40. It doesn't provide magic resistance. It no longer grants Mage Slayer. Oh yeah, Mage Slayer was part of it. Mage Slayers instead of Demon Edge. Now also provides Javelin's passive. It didn't before, I guess, where you would potentially pierce, right? The damage as well as the chance just to pierce evasion. It is increased by 10%, the chance to pierce. Soul Rend now also causes all attacks against the target to deal 60 bonus magical damage, which is pretty big, actually. This is probably a much better item, so I'm glad that they increased the cost, but now it's going to be bought more often. A lot of people weren't buying it, so that's good. Total cost for Butterfly increased by 475 because they changed a Quarterstaff to a Claymore. No longer provides attack speed since there's no Quarterstaff. Now provides 20 base attack speed. Also affects only the base attack speed and gain from agility attribute. Does not affect attack speed bonuses from buffs and items. So basically, it's going to increase your attack speed, but it's not going to stack with a lot of things. Still nice, though. A lot of heroes are going to attack wicked fast with this. Like, now PL is going to attack unbelievably fast, so it's really gross. But it's much more expensive. So that's really nice, because a lot of heroes are buying a quick Butterfly like Medusa, and now it's going to be much harder for her to afford that as quickly, right? Crystallis, total cost was increased by 100, which is minor. I think that's fine. It's a really cheap item that does a lot, so I think increasing its cost is good. Because Daedalus has Crystallis in it, They decreased the recipes so that the Crystallis is, Daedalus is the same cost, even though this went up by 100. They just wanted to make sure the Daedalus wasn't more expensive. So that's nice. Disperser, recipe changed. Now requires Diffusal Blade, which it already did. Eagle Song, that's unique. Used to have a Demon Edge in it. And 400 retro speed. Total cost is unchanged. No longer grants 45 damage because there's no Demon Edge. Agility bonus was increased by 20. Suppressed duration increased from 4 to 5. So this is a really nice change. I buy this on PL after I have some items, right? And this means that it's just as easy to get. And as much as I'm not going to do as much damage, the agility bonus almost counteracts that. So 45 damage gone, add 20 back, right? So I'm only losing 25 damage, but I get armor in exchange and attack speed in exchange, right? Might be worth it. And the suppressed duration, which is either the slow or the movement speed for us, lasts longer, which is also a big deal. Divine Rapier now also provides 25% spell amp. That's really crazy, actually. So that means that like Zeus picking that up can actually be a thing, right? This is two things that have increased spell amp, which is the amplify damage rune and this. So that's nice, right? Echo went up by 200 because they just changed some of the components. No longer provides 10 int or 10 attack speed. Damage bonus increased by 5. Strength bonus increased by 2. The cooldown went down by 1, meaning it'll activate more often. I mean, that's probably good. More damage and more strength is probably better, even if it's more expensive since the cooldown. So it's probably a fair change. I like it. Eternal Shroud. Total cost increased by 500. Ugh. No longer provides health regen, now provides health. Magic resistance bonus was decreased by 10. Shroud percentage of damage as mana rescaled from 30 after reductions to 20 before reductions. Now has an additional passive, Eternal Endurance. For every 300 magic damage equipped hero receives, it gains a stack up to a maximum of 6. Each stack increases Eternal Shroud's base magic resistance by 4 and lasts for 8 seconds. That's interesting. So I think overall the price is painful, but giving this stacking, magic resistance, as well as making sure the mana restore is calculating before reductions, which does matter. If you have like a pipe or something, is really nice. Ethereal Blade. It went up by a lot. 350, 825, something like that. I think it's 825. It requires an Aether Lens. No longer provides any of Kaya-based bonuses. Provides 8 attributes, 300 mana, 3 mana regen, and 250 cast range. It's making the E-Blade is more of a support item, basically. And the occasional carry. Like Zeus. Basically. Sorry. I did warn you all I was sick. I think that's fine. It being more expensive is kind of rough for supports, to be honest with you. But it's probably needed. Because like too many supports will have E-Blades and counter carries, so I'm glad to see it increase in price. I have Scotty. It now provides the new Ultimate Orb. Attack speed reduction rescaled from 3060 to 1020%. So I have Scotty will have a bigger effect on really, really high attack speed heroes, but for the most part it's going to have less, like on a support. Yeah. It doesn't even say that the cost is unchanged. I'm not sure if it is or isn't. I have to find out. Gleipnir. Recipe cost decreased from 700 to 450. Total cost was unchanged because of some of its components. It provides 30 attack speed from the updated Maelstrom, which we haven't got to, but cool. No longer provides 250 mana, now provides the 1.5 mana regen and 1.5 mana regen to allies and 5 to allies below 25%. So basically, because Basilius is in it, they just gave like a Basilius-like change. Which is nice, honestly, because the mana is important. Total cost increased 200 for Harpoon, good. No longer provides 10 attack speed, good. Damage bonus increased by 10. Strength bonus increased by 5, gross. Int bonus decreased by 6, that's good. Echo Strike cooldown now matches Echo Saber. I mean, I'd like to see some nerfs, and they gave a strength and damage buff, which is unfortunate because that means strength and damage. Strength heroes are going to like this even more, but it's more expensive. I don't know. It's gross. They changed the recipe stuff, but its total cost is the same. It no longer grants 250 health, which is going to make this item much worse. That's a big nerf, right? Still buyable on certain heroes, but I'm glad to see that because now some of these tanks, this tank meta we're seeing, might get slowly nerfed over time. They decreased Helm of the Overlord's cost. All attributes bonus increased by 14, but it no longer provides Vlad's aura. That's nice because the Vlad's aura is really strong. So now it's like, nah, you don't just get to buff everything. So now that means that the Lycan push thing isn't quite as good because now it's not giving a damage amp to all of his wolves and creeps. Like any creeps you might summon because he can obviously grab a neutral creep with the helm. So that's really nice, actually. I still don't love it, but I guess it's better. Holy Locket. It went down by 50 gold. Cool. It doesn't grant regeneration aura, so that's gone. All attributes bonus, which increased by 1. Energy charge, health mana restore per charge, increased 15 to 17, meaning it's going to give more health and mana when you activate it. Energy charge base restore time has decreased from 10 to 8, meaning it gets its charges back faster. That's kind of nice. It's kind of a support item in some cases, so I like to see it getting cheaper. I never see people buy it. Lincoln's. It went up by 200. Pain. No longer provides 10 damage. That makes Lincoln's harder to buy on supports. And sadder to buy as carries because it doesn't give you the 10 damage. It still gives you $16 attributes, so like, you know. But still. Maelstrom. Total cost went up by 250. It provides 25 attack speed. Damage bonus increased by 1. Chain lightning damage decreased by 15. So here are the real. This is the lowdown on this, right? 25 attack speed is really good. The increase in price is really painful for heroes who want a quick Maelstrom like Wind Ranger because it's just you're going to take longer to get it, right? The damage bonus is nothing, and the chain lightning going down, meaning it's less likely that it's going to kill whatever you're trying to do, creeps, heroes, whatever. This is a really big nerf. This is like a Maelstrom get fucked nerf. As much as the attack speed's really nice, I'm glad. Fuck Maelstrom. Total cost increased by 125. Attack speed bonus increased by 25. Ouch. But no damage. The Mage Slayer debuff when you hit now deals 20 damage per second, which it didn't used to before. It used to just it just caused them to do less spell damage. I'm glad it now does damage to them. That's nice. It's more expensive. Usually you buy Mage Slayer to go into a different item, so I'm not really sure it'll be bought at all, but hey, you know, if it does, it's cool. Manta has its total cost unchanged. Nobody cares. Mask of Madness went up by 125 gold. It no longer provides 10 attack speed. The damage bonus increased from 10 to 20. So basically, we lost a 10 attack speed for 10 damage, which in early game can really matter, but in late game, that's a nerf. Like level, you know, minute 30 or something, it's going to do less damage in general, and it's more expensive on top of that. So that's really painful. That's putting Mask of Madness in a really rough spot. Medallion is gone. Sad. I actually like Medallion, but okay. Meteor Hammer. It is 900 gold more. Let's go. No longer provides health regen or mana regen. Int bonus was increased by 16. Agility and strength bonus decreased by 2. It does provide spell amp, lifesteal spell amp, and 75% mana regen amp. So basically, the spell amp is flat, and that's cool. But the lifesteal spell amp means you already have to have spell lifesteal. Then it would amplify it. And mana regen, it obviously amplifies whatever your mana regen is. Meteor Hammer damage over time for both units and buildings was decreased by 10. The impact got decreased by 5, and on creeps, it was decreased by 20. So basically, what this does for you now is it gives more int, and it gives some nice spell amp, spell lifesteal type things, but in exchange, it's just worse in general, and it's much more expensive. I don't think it's going to be bought, to be honest with you. It's nice to have spell amp. That's kind of cool, but other than that, it just seems kind of shitty. It seems too expensive. I could be wrong. Mjolnir just kept the cost the same. Attack speed bonus was increased by 20. That's really nice because I buy Mjolnir sometimes, so I'm glad to see Mjolnir get some attack speed. a lot of people aren't buying it. No change. Oblivion Staff went up by 125, but in exchange they hit the damage but increased the attack speed by 25. Overall, that's probably a damage increase, but it's more expensive. So, you know, it's nicer to have this by itself now. Recipe for Octarine Core, it went up by 200, but the mana regen bonus increased by 1. I don't know if it's worth. Maybe it's worth for some heroes late game because you're looking for any mana regen you can get on Zeus, Storm, etc. So seeing you get more mana, even if it's a little more expensive, might be worth it. It's harder for other heroes who are just using it for the cooldown and only the cooldown to get it, though. But it's minor. I don't think it's going to change the meta. Orb of Corrosion is a little cheaper. Now it gives armor and attack speed. Attacks on enemy apply a debuff that deals 5 damage per second, slows enemies by this much. Equip a hero's melee/range and decreases health they gain from healing, regeneration, lifesteal, and spell lifesteal. So I don't think it gives any, because they took out the fucking armor shred, right? They took out the item that gives armor shred. I can't Blightstone. So in exchange, it no longer reduces armor, but in exchange, it now nerfs their ability to gain health. In the damage over time affects buildings, which it didn't used to. I actually think it did do. I feel like it did, but regardless. It's probably a better item because the armor doesn't feel super important. So it's probably still better. It's a nice early game item, even if it's less expensive. So, you know, this might be something we see more often. Mana regen bonus went up by 1 on Orchid. That's really nice. Pavice. Total cost unchanged. No longer provides mana regen, but it does provide flat mana. Mana regen is usually better than flat mana, so that's a nerf, I would say. But I mean, at least it's something, right? Phylactery. Total cost increased by 25. No longer provides mana regen. So the item by itself was nerfed, right? It's more expensive slightly, and it doesn't give mana regen. I like that a lot. Fuck Phylactery. Pipe is 350 more expensive. And in exchange, it does give health regen up by 8. Probably not worth it for the price, meaning like that's a nerf overall. But Pipe is so strong that I'm glad, right? Good. Refresher. Total cost unchanged. Health regen went up by 6. Mana regen went up by 2. Damage bonus was decreased by 10. It's just sadder to have this on any kind of like right clicker now. I mean, it's minor, but you know, it's still fine. I think it's still probably a better item overall. Revenants. It is much cheaper. Much cheaper. Wow. It is 1,300 cheaper. It gives 70 damage and 20% spell lifesteal. And now you toggle on Phantom Providence. It activates to make your attacks cost 75 mana and deal magic damage. It does allow it to hit ethereal units. So basically, at the cost of mana per attack, right? So 75, 75, 75. It lets you hit ethereal units, but there's no cooldown, which means you can just turn it on if you wanted to, right? So if you were high mana hero, you could just start slamming. It's much cheaper, too. So I think this actually might be a thing. I think this is nice. I might see this item more often. I almost never see it now, so good. Scythe. Its price went down by 350. It doesn't provide 10 strength or 10 agility, but its int bonus also went down by 5. That's why. So it's cheaper, but it has less stats on it. That's sad because people are still going to buy it, and now that it's cheaper, they're going to buy it more often. Shivas. Total cost went down by 25. Provides 8 strength, 8 agility, 8 health regen. The int bonus went down dramatically, 22. That's huge. Armor bonus increased by 5. Arctic Blast now also causes enemies to take 50% more damage from spells. So it gives a terrible, like a painful debuff. And it costs less to use. So its price decrease is cool, right? It now gives really good stats. 8 strength, 8 agility, 8 health regen. Even if it nerfed the int, which is going to be painful for heroes like Storm and... trying to think about the other heroes. Zeus, if he wants to buy it. Silencer, perhaps. It's going to nerf that. But it does make you tankier, and the increase to spell amp, right, is going to really be nice. So this looks like the spell caster buff, and as far as I'm concerned, I've seen a lot of this right now. Silver Edge. Total cost unchanged. Damage bonus increased by 8. No longer provides critical hits at all. Shadow Walk bonus damage increased when you come out of it by 125. The break duration increased by 1. That's a really nice change. So basically, it does more damage for having it. It doesn't crit, which is sad, but in exchange, it does more damage when you reveal from Invis, and the break lasts a second longer, which is a nerf to heroes who have big passives like Bristleback, right? So that's kind of cool. I like it. Good change. Solar still exists. It's weird. Total cost went up by 275. No mana regen, but it gives health and mana. Shine now grants a 400 HP barrier. Can apply on itself, but does not grant bonus armor in that case. Shine can no longer be cast on enemies. So it's no longer a debuff item, okay? It's only a buff item. That's a big nerf by itself. It's more expensive, which is a big nerf. But a 400 HP barrier is really nice, right? Because it affects all damage. So I think it'll still be bought, but it's going to be more of a niche buy, right? Because the lack of the enemy use is really bad, right? So we'll see. Veil costs 200 more. It gets 5 health regen and 6 armor. Magic weakness spell amp decreased from 18 to 10. Magic weakness is now untargetable. Applying debuff to all enemies within 900 radius. Okay. So it's more expensive, and they nerfed the spell amp, but it happens always if you're near them. So for someone like Sand King, this might be a good buy. Maybe someone like, I'm trying to think of who else. Like Techies maybe, like just because it follows you. So if you go in, everybody gets hit with it, right? That might be worth it. That's kind of cool, right? Good change. Witchblade went up by 125. Attack speed bonus increased by 5. Now provides mana regen. That's probably worth it, honestly. Just like to get some extra stuff at the backside makes Witchblade a little bit scarier, even if it's more expensive. Neutral items, I hate them all. I'm going to start tier 1, obviously. Provides health regen and allows you, it's passive. It gives you 100 HP barrier. It fully restores after not receiving damage for 5 seconds. Any damage, by the way, not creeps either. Royal Jelly is returned. So basically, instead of being a permanent, like I give you this, it's now a reusable item. It has a charge time. So you consume all charges of jelly and grant a targeted ally unit a buff that provides 2 health regen and 1 mana per charge. It can have a maximum of 2 charges, which is what it said, right? Oh, max charge is 10, I'm sorry. If the target takes damage from a Rashawn or enemy hero, the effect is lost. The charge restore time is 8, cooldown is 12, just meaning you can't cast it again, just because you have a charge. It looks like basically, it's nice, just health and mana is nice, and it allows you just like to really get someone quick back in the fight, because you can have up to 10 of these, right? And it would give you 20 health regen and 10 mana regen for 10 seconds, which obviously means they're going to get 200 health and 100 mana if you had full charges, which is nice. But you can't do it during battle, so yeah. No more Tumbler's Toy, it was too good. Good. Light Collector, we're now into the tier 2s. Provides movement speed, which is really strong. It's passive. Provides wearer with 6 health regen during the day and 3 mana regen during the night. If the wearer is not within 200 radius of a tree, these bonuses are doubled. And it has an active light break. Produces a flash of light that destroys trees in a radius around the wearer. Cooldown 30 seconds. So basically, they can actually get 12 HP regen or 6 mana regen if there's no trees around, which is obviously hard depending where you are. Better in the river. 150 mana. Tunnel Vision. Grants 10% spell damage amp, but decreases the wearer's daytime's vision by 15%, which is going to make it easier to get ganked. Because of this vision nerf, you have to have wards to make this any use at all. But in a team fight, it's just a strict benefit. No more Ring of Aquila. Doubloon, tier 3. 5 health regen, 2.5 mana regen. Flip. Converts 20% of your max health to max mana, or converts 20% of your max mana to max health. Cooldown 5 seconds. So basically, do you want more health or do you want more mana? And you can decide. Nemesis Curse. Tier 3, which we're still at. 35 damage per passive, Glass Cannon. The wearer takes 8% more damage from all sources. Passive, Glassify. Wearer's attack apply a debuff on enemy targets that increases all damage taken by them by 12%. Debuff is 5 seconds, only one hero can have it at a time. So what that means is you hit, let's say you hit Sven. Sven increases his damage against the person holding Nemesis Curse, like you, right? You're a lion or something. You right click, now Sven does more damage by 12% when attacking you in particular. It only lasts 5 seconds though. And obviously if you're just a caster, just don't right click. Craggy Coat. Armor bonus decreased from 12 to 6. No longer decreases attack speed at all. Active Toughen Up. Increases armor by an additional 12 at the cost of 30 movement speed. 8 second duration. So basically you could just be super tanky. It's a way to give tankier heroes just, oh, I have a bunch of armor. Cycled out. That's good. I hated both of those items. Ancient Guardian. Tier 4. Provides 50 damage. Passive. If you're near Ancients at all, grants another 50 damage on top of that, which is pretty big actually. Which also means it will apply when you're doing Ancients. When you're killing the camp, it would make you do them much faster. Aviana's Feather. Provides 25% evasion and 30 movement speed. When below 30% health, you gain flying movement, but not flying vision. Rattle Cage. 12 armor. Passive. Reverberate. After taking 180 damage from any source, the wearer fires a projectile at up to 2 random nearby enemies within a 600 radius, prioritizing heroes. Deals 125 physical damage and slows the target movement only for 0.2 seconds, but it's 100%. Excuse me. This doesn't seem very good. Penta Edge out, Spell Prism out. Tier 5s. Unwavering Condition. Provides 95% magic resistance, which is basically you're immune to magic. Passive. Wearer's health, max health is set to 1500 and can't be altered. So basically, if you're facing an all-magic team, this is really good. Magic Lamp. Rejuvenate, heal, increase from 300 to 1,000. I don't even know what that is. When you fall below 20%, you gain a hard dispel and you're healed for 1,000. It's really nice, actually. No Ex Machina at all, good. No Fallen Sky, good. Alright, hero changes, which is basically near the end here. Abaddon got an armor buff. He now deals damage per second if he procs Curse. Damage to buildings is reduced by 70%. That way he can't just destroy towers. But this is a huge buff to him. He got a really sick talent. Instead of strength, he gains a Phonic Shield, gives HP regen, which is a nice support Abaddon talent. His damage talent was replaced with Curse of Avernus DPS, which means he's a better pusher. So I think overall this is a nice buff to Abaddon. I don't see him very often. Alchemist. Mana cost on Acid Spray decreased by 10, and Furry will be so happy about this. Corrosive Weaponry, the debuff duration was increased from 3.5 to 4. I don't even know what it does, honestly. Movement speed slow, status resistant reduction. Okay. Minor changes. They took away the Ice Vortex duration, which was stupid, and replaced it with plus 5 seconds to Ice Blast Frostbitten, which is a much bigger talent, right? That's a huge thing for AA, because now his Frostbite lasts longer, people can heal for longer, more likely that they shatter. Huge change, right? That's big. Anti-Mage's talent on max mana burn increased from 0.6 to 1%, which means I'm going to be burning 4% more mana, and then part of that on my illusions as well, making it easier for Anti-Mages to mana you out. And the talent that increases Mana Void's damage, the multiplier, was increased by 0.15 to 0.2, which is an increase of 0.05. That's minor. But hey, if it's a bigger bomb, it's a bigger bomb, right? Alright, Arc Warden. His talent on Magnetic Field went down by 5. The talent on Tempest Double went down by 2. I mean, good. Minor changes, but I'll take them. Axe is much tankier now. Kind of. Base armor increased by 1, which is going to make laning easier. Berserker's Call now has to scale up to being the same armor. That's a nerf, right? But Culling Blade, the temporary boost, which means that just buff you get when you do Culling Blade that lasts for a little bit, doesn't provide attack speed. Instead, it gives you a bunch of armor. So all that armor just hits him suddenly when he uses a Culling Blade, so he's really, really hard to kill again for physical damage. His 10 Berserker's Call armor was replaced with 4-second Culling Blade speed bonus duration, just meaning that this boost lasts longer. right? It says this is speed, but I think it would apply the armor as well. I'm not sure. That's probably better, honestly, because the movement speed is really big. It applies to allies too, I believe. Yeah, nearby allies gain movement speed in armor. So yeah, it's really big, actually. This is probably a buff overall. Bane. Heal damage increased by 15 to start. And it scales to the same, so just early game buff. Mana cost was rescaled to be more expensive early, less expensive late. Aghanim Shard now also decreases cooldown by 3. That's gross. Cast range increased on Nightmare by 75, but it scales to the same. So a lot of early game Bane love, basically, and a nice Aghanim Shard love, too. Overall, I hate it. Batrider. Movement speed slow increased by 5% across the board on Flame Break. Projectile speed increased from 200, so it's faster when he throws the Molotov cocktail. Firefly, the cooldown was decreased at all levels, so he can just do it more often, right? Flaming Lasso added an AoE indicator for secondary grab targets, which just make it easier to get 2 targets when he has Ags. Buffs to Batrider would mean he might come back to the meta, because that change to Flame Break is really big. And it means the Firefly he can farm more often. Beastmaster, base damage increased by 2, agility gain increased by 0.2, and his 35 boar attack damage replaced with 30 boar and hawk damage, which is the hawk is the hit, right? I would argue that's a nerf because the hawk doesn't hit as often, but the boar does. But these are obviously buffs, which is annoying as fuck. So Beastmaster's gonna be played more often, and I hate it. Blood Rage, max health damage per second decreased by 0.3%. That's really nice. Aghanim Shard damage and lifesteal rescaled from 1.8% of the target's max HP to a flat 30 pure damage and heal. That's a nerf, most likely. On supports, it's a buff. People who have low health. But in general, it's going to be worse against tanky heroes, which is really sad. Blood Rite changed from pure to magical. The damage was increased by 20, scaling up to 80, but that doesn't matter. Being magical nerfs this entirely. They increased Blood Rage Spell Amp. Who cares? Yeah, I mean, this is all nerfs. This is very bad as far as I can see. Bounty Hunter. Instead of half track bonus speed to allies, replaced with extra track gold for him. Well, for the kill. And instead of this later huge track gold at 25, he has no cooldown on Janata, which is just fucking wonderful. I hate this hero. Earth Ruling got his later damage to buildings increased. And the talent for attack speed went up by 10. Yeah. Bristleback. Aghanim Shard stack limit decreased from 7 to 6 on Viscous. So that means that you can't have as much armor missing and as much slow on you as well. So that's a really big nerf. Aghanim Scepter cooldown increased by 4 seconds on Bristleback. Also a big nerf. And 20 damage was replaced with attack speed. At the time you get this talent, the attack speed is worse. You won't have as much damage. But overall, it'll be better late when he hits you. Nice nerfs, though. Good. Hoof Stomp. Stomp damage decreased at earlier levels. It scales to the same. The talent for double-edged strength damage was decreased by 5%. So, I mean, these are generally just nerfs across the board, but minor ones. Chaos Strike. He just gets less lifesteal in general early. He has to scale back into lifesteal, so it's harder to lane. I mean, that's nice. It's good. Alright, Chen. I know nothing about Chen. Attack range bonus is now applied to all ranged units under Chen's control from Penitence. That's really strong, actually. Holy Persuasion can no longer be used to teleport and control units to Chen. That's a big nerf. Divine Favor. Passively provides an aura that increases health regen to all allied units that are near him. Can be cast on an ally with an aura to provide them with extra armor and increase any healing they receive by 20%. Self-casting now teleports any unit under Chen's control to him after a 6-second delay. If a controlled unit takes damage from a hero, its teleportation is cancelled. Low cooldown. I mean, I don't know how this will affect him. Hand of God was reduced at all levels by 50. Looks like there are somewhat buffs, because the armor, for example. Not sure. Looks like buffs. Clink's gain and agility gain increase. Mana cost was decreased on Burning Barrage. Cooldown was decreased by 5 seconds. He gains more Death Pact for talent. Strafe cooldown reduction was increased by 1, so he can strafe more often. I mean, this is just buffs to Clinks, and I hate it. Strength gain and clock increased by 0.3. Overclocking no longer self-stuns after duration. Instead, it slows clockwork movement and attack speed by 100%. For how long? Like 3 seconds, I would presume. That's obviously much better because he can still cast spells. Self mana regen multiplier increased by 1 times. That's really nice for Crystal Maiden, just more likely to have a ton of mana. Clone can now be destroyed by Crystal Maiden's own AoE spells. Radius increased by 50. So now you can force the shatter. Good. Crystal Nova cooldown reduction was buffed. Crystal Nova damage was buffed tremendously. This is nice. This is really nice Crystal Maiden buffs. You don't see her as much as you used to, so I like this. Ion Shell mana with cost was decreased at all levels by 10. That's fine. The wall now deals damage to an enemy when an illusion of them is created. That just means that basically, if your illusion's weak, you still at least take some flat amount of damage. That's a really nice buff to Darkseer. He really needs that, because it's just shitty that like someone can have an illusion created in them and then like it means nothing. It's nice to at least do some damage. Cancels blinks, for example. Duration until max damage was decreased by 0.5 seconds, which is going to buff the right-click Willow build, which I hate. Cursed Crown stun duration talent was buffed slightly. Shadow Realm duration was decreased by 0.5 seconds though, so at least that's nice. So on the back end, she'll be doing the same damage from 20 onward because the duration went down by 0.5, but she could start doing damage earlier, so at least it balances out. But earlier, it's terrible. Fire Trail duration increased. It scales up, so now it's harder for people to push in a Dawnbreaker. I like that. Poison Touch now allows affected heroes to be denied if they fall below a certain threshold. That's a really big nerf to Dazzle. That's painful. Bad Juju no longer affects item cooldowns. Health cost increased per cast, decreased from 50 to 40. So he doesn't hurt himself as much, but he can't affect items. Big nerfs. Big nerfs. Goodbye, Dazzle. You're not going to be played at all. That's like the end. Silence now also slows enemy movement speed. That's really big. That's a really big nerf. Instead of Crypt Swarm giving a slow, which I thought was terrible anyway, the Silence gives a bigger slow. I think that's nice. I think that's probably a good change. Because now you could be bigger slow. You'll end up being slowed by 40%. For a longer time, too, because this lasts for 6 seconds. Disruptor, Aghanim Shard, dormant duration increased from 5 to 7, so it'll wait for longer. His Stag Storm increased its radius by 50, which I hate. They buffed his Glimpse doing damage. And it does a bigger slow on his talent for Thunderstrike. Whatever. Doom's a little faster. His neutral abilities level up without him having to eat a new creep, which is just a nice quality of life. The cooldown on Infernal Blade went down at earlier levels. Doom doesn't make a hero deniable, so that's a really big buff, meaning that like heroes can't just decide to just be alright. And they buffed talent for Infernal Blades. These are all buffs, obviously, and I hate them because I don't like Doom. I was just hoping for a Midas nerf, and I'm really mad that it didn't happen. Now apply the corresponding Corrosive Breath and Frost Breath debuffs from his current level of Elder Dragon form, even in human form. So even when he doesn't use his ult, he just gets the benefits of Corrosive Breath and Frost Breath. That's really painful. That's really strong, actually. That might make Dragon Knight play it again, to be honest with you, because now he slows you if he gets close to you and does damage over time to stop blinks. Gust reveals invis units, wicked big buff to Drought. Glacier does not interrupt multi-shot on cast, meaning you can start multi-shotting and then Glacier. Instead of Gust revealing invis units like it used to, now she just gets lifesteal at 15, which actually is a tough choice on 8 multi-shot cooldown or lifesteal. Probably lifesteal, but like that's nice. This is nice buffs to draw. Echo damage increased by 5 at all levels on Echo. Mana cost rescaled, so it's more expensive early, less expensive late. Elder Titan got a buff early on his ult. Just does more damage. Alright, Ember Spirit. His Searing Chains just automatically hit 3 units instead of 2. Huge buff. Huge buff. Bonus hero damage increased the late game by 15. So it's 0, 5, 10, 15. Yeah. That's a really big one. The radius on Flame Guard increased by 50. meaning it's easier to like cancel blanks and stuff by hitting units that are kind of near you. Big buffs. When you hit someone with enchant and now deals damage over time, it no longer provides armor to enchanted creeps. So her creeps are worse, but now she can like damage you while she's slowing. But now she can give armor late at level 10 if she wants to. So instead of giving her magic resistance, she could give her creeps armor if she wanted to. Magic resistance might have been better, I'm not sure. Eidolon health is increased by 4% of Enigma's current health. Okay, that's stupid. They're just tanky now. They don't cancel their attack order quality life. Midnight Pulse now deals base damage on top of its percentage, but its current health damage was decreased by 1%, so that's going to be a nerf overall. The radius was also decreased by 50, so this is a nerf to Midnight Pulse, but Eidolon's got a buff. Strength gain increased by 0.2 for Void, he's tankier. His talent for time dilation went up. Both talents for time dilation went up. I'm getting there, guys. We're almost an hour in. I might do this in 2 hours. I'll probably do it less than that, but we'll see. Grimstroke. Aghanim Shard damage / heal bonus decreased by 10%. I don't remember what the Aghanim Shard does. But it's a nice nerf either way. Cooldown on Soulbind was increased at later levels, making it harder for him to be as relevant. Nerf on talent. Nerf on talent. Buff on Stroke of Fate damage, though. Nerfs overall. Good. Gyro. Call down. Now always shoots 3 missile strikes in the vector targeted direction, but with a single missile per strike. Each missile deals a lot of damage and slows enemy movement by 50% for 4 seconds. Delay between strikes increased from 0.75 to 1. Strike radius decreased by 200. Mana cost increased. And his talent, instead of giving 3 times call down, instead reduces the cooldown and makes it global. That's a lot of damage just to immediately hit, right? 550, just boom. It slows you for more too. This make it really, really hard to get out of it. You're gonna have to have 4 staffs and stuff. It's gonna because it feels useless right now. So this is a nice change. Bonus damage in Acorn, 5, 10, 15, 20. That's really gross. Bushwhack total damage went up late. It's 0, 20, 40, 60. That's a really big increase. Invoker base damage went down by 1, but his strength gain went up, so he's a little tankier, but is doing... I mean, granted, his strength gain actually affects his damage, but it's going to take time, a couple levels, before his damage hits the same level, because he's going to need... What is it? 2 whole strength, which is going to take him 10 levels to get the damage back. But after that, if my math is correct, after that, his damage will be higher, because the strength, and he'll be tankier. Tether now deals damage per second to enemies caught in the tether. It used to just do damage back in the day and then slow, but now it's damage over time. So Io can purposely go around you and start ticking you for damage. That's really painful. Chikiro. Start radius decreased, and radius is unchanged. It just means that it spreads in a thinner line then gets big, I think is what they mean. Movement slow decreased early, but same late. Attack slow decreased early, same late. His attacks range talent decreased. I mean, that's not a big deal. It's just going to make it harder for him to hit his spells. He just has to try harder. Okay. Damage tick rate on Jug's Blade Fury rescaled from a permanent 0.2 to Juggernaut's attack rate at current attack speed multiplied by 2, which means it could go higher. Damage rescaled from this number per second. So it's less. Okay. I Am Shard reworked now increases Blade Fury radius by 100 and slows enemies' move speed by 35%. Now we'll see how that works. He might actually end up doing more damage. I'm not sure. But earlier, he won't kill you now. Blade Fury radius was replaced with Healing Ward radius. Stats replaced with better chance to crit. Blade Fury DPS replaced with movement speed during Blade Fury so he can catch up to you. I mean, this is all fine. Keeper. Every time you get caught by Will-O-Wisp, it deals damage. Recall now also casts Chakra Magic on both Keeper of the Light and Ally upon teleporting. That's kind of nice, I guess. All his talents changed, basically. Buff. So Chakra Magic dispels 1.5 second Solar Bind stun when target is fully slowed. That's probably worse, because the Chakra Magic dispel was probably better. Okay, here it is. Chakra Magic strong dispels at 25. It's a strong dispel, which is really good. but might be fair. You just have to wait longer to get the Dispel, which is sad. Torrent Storm costs more mana. Minimum spawn distance decreased. Oh my god. So it can spawn closer to Kuka. Okay. Item Shard no longer provides bonus armor or duration. Item Shard now increases overwhelming odds AoE by 250 when cast during a duel. So she'll get more damage on people, obviously. Item Shard now provides 8 damage per duel won. Applies retroactively, meaning that once you get your shard, any duel you've won now increases. Interesting. But now she doesn't get the 8 duel damage on talent. She instead gets press the attack movement speed, which, probably fine changes, honestly. Damage increase from when Edict went up by 2 at all levels. That's going to mean pushing is going to be much stronger. Lightning Storm now slows attack speed by 50, which is a huge buff. So Leshrac coming back to the meta, friends. Sinister Gaze mana drain per second increased by 2%. That's minor. Movement slow and Inspired was decreased by 5. They nerfed the talent, whatever. Movement speed got an early nerf for Lifestealer on Rage. That's minor. Just means you won't be able to kill early. Spell Amplification replaced with 5 Laguna Blade supercharged stacks. I don't even know what the fuck that means. 25 talent. Laguna Blade damage is pure, replaced with 150% crit on targets affected by Dragon Sleeve. Only affects Lena's stacks, obviously. So now she can get a crit instead. But she loses Spell Amp, and that's really sad. So Caster Lena is pretty much out. Lena's a right clicker now, basically. I assume it just means Fiery Soul, like more, I don't know. We'll have to see. Base health regen increased by 0.25. Oh, Lion's a little tankier now over time. Now, mana drain now damages enemies for 100% of the mana drained. So since you can do 120 mana per second, you can do 120 damage per second at level 7 if you max this. That's pretty big. If you had mana, though, mind you, you have to have the mana to burn. It's pretty big. And instead of mana drain deals damage, it was replaced with 100% mana drain damage, meaning that it does 200% of the mana drained at 25. Pretty painful. Lone Druid, strength gain decreased by 0.2, a little squishier. Bear armor was decreased early. Fetch duration, I don't know what that is, increased by 0.25. Fetch no longer slows the bear. Radius decreased on Savage Roar by 25, making it harder to fear everybody. The talent for Bear armor went down. The talent for his Savage Roar cooldown went down. I mean, they're nerfs, but they're minor. It's still going to be a gross hero. Skewer now additionally deals damage of distance traveled. Damage decreased, the flat damage, commensurately, so now he has to do a big skewer. Like a quick skewer won't do it. Do less damage. All stats per hero hit with reverse polarity was increased by 2, which means it can get tanky and stuff and some mana and all that. Minor changes, but I think they're probably buffs. Rebound intact damage was decreased early, increased late. Unleash's cooldown was buffed early. And the Disposed talent was buffed. Who cares? I mean, they're minor changes, but they're nice for Marcy. Spare Mars backswing was decreased dramatically. So now Mars just kind of goes, wah! Rather than the whole nonsense. And that's probably really nice. You can also cast it while you have Bulwark out. Crit on God's Rebuke went up late game. 30% at max. That's really nice. 0, 10, 20, 30. Bulwark active now grants Mars phased movement. Active projectile redirection now also protects allies that are up to 200 range in front of Mars. Sorry, I'm trying to process that. Oh, meaning he doesn't have to be in front of you. They can be close to him at all. Arena of Blood happens much faster. So this is a big Mars buffs. These are huge, actually. Good for Mars. I like Mars. Medusa. Agility gain increased by 0.2. Outgoing damage on split shot increased by 5% at all levels, which means that when you get the talent, it has 95% damage. Unless they nerfed it. They buffed the talent for Stone Gaze, and they buffed the talent for Snake Bounces. Nice. Meepo. Poof now does magical damage, and the damage was increased by 20, 30, 40, 50, but it doesn't matter. Huge nerf. And even talent for Poof damage went up, but it doesn't matter. Doing magical just means that heroes can resist it so much better, so it's a nerf. Good. Mirana, int gain increased by 0.2. Starstorm Radius was increased by 25, making it easier to hit everybody. Leap's Aghanim Shard now guarantees a secondary Starstorm strike on all enemies affected by the slow if Starstorm is cast. Okay. So it's more likely she hits you all with much damage. Instead of 45 damage, she gets a crit, 20% for 200%. That's probably better. Hard to say, but that might be better just because, well, you have to assume 1/5 of that damage added back because that's how crits work. So, no, in most cases, 45 damage is probably better, I think. If my math is correct, I think the 45 damage was probably better. But it's more interesting than crits, so. Also, it means you wouldn't want to buy a Daedalus. Monkey King. Boundless Strike's mana cost was decreased at earlier levels. Aghanim Shard's Primal Spring effect power from 50 to 60%, meaning that when he pulls himself to you, he hits you with a more active slow. Tree Dance. Distance decreased from 200. Cooldown decreased pretty notably, actually. 0.5, 0.1, 0.1.5, 0.2. So he can jump around more, but he doesn't get the chance to jump as far. Wukong's command, the cooldown was buffed early. The cast range was increased by 75, meaning he can cast it further away from himself, catching more people. Oh, that's cool. And his additional Wukong's command ring from 25 now also increases cast range by 350, meaning it's easier to cast it ahead of oneself. That's really nice. These are nice Monkey King changes. Muerta. Gunslinger is now toggleable, and no longer prioritizes heroes. It means you don't have to push the lane by definition if you want Gunslinger. But on the flip side, now that doesn't prioritize heroes, she's worse in a fight. Pierce the Veil's damage went down 2nd and 3rd level. That's a pretty big nerf. This is really going to hurt her playability. Naga's strength gain went down. Her Riptide damage went down talent on 10. That's sad too. Nature's Prophet agility gain decreased by 0.2. Base mana regen decreased by 0.75, so it's 0 now. Base mana, he still has mana regen, which means it's int has to affect it. I mean, I like Nature's Prophet nerfs. They're minor, but I like them all the same. Less armor, less damage. Well, less armor, less attack speed. And less mana to do stuff with. Death Pulse mana cost was increased by at earlier levels. Aghanim Scepter health regen to decay decreased by 5%, further nerfing the Ags. And they nerfed his talent on the Heartstopper Aura. So nice nerf to Necro. Needed it. Night Stalker got a base mana regen increase of 0.25. Nice for him to cast. Mana cost decreased on Void late game by 5. Whatever. Aghanim Shard max health restore decreased from 35% to 30, so it's harder for him to get all his health back. And his talent on damage on all went down by 5. So nice Night Stalker. Buffs followed by big nerfs. I think the nerfs overdo the buffs, but that's hard to say. He really just got mana buffs and he got nerfs on his effectiveness, so I think it's probably a nerf. Burrow no longer requires Nyx Assassin to face a direction when casting spells, meaning when he unburrows, he can be facing whatever direction he wants to run away. Or blink, for example. Level 10 talent on Spell Amp was changed to Vendetta damage, which is really sad because his Spell Amp was probably much better, but I also don't want to see Nyx, so I'm cool with that. The talent for Ignite DPS went down by 1, whatever. His 250 health talent was replaced with 2/.01 Dumblunk max mana / mana regen per strength. Okay. So he gains better Dumblunk mana and mana regen per strength. So if you take the talent of 15, instead of getting health, you're going to get max mana and mana regen, essentially. Okay, I get that. Okay. It's probably worse, honestly. Guardian Angel. Now, single target ability with a 900 cast range. That's so bad. Mana cost decreased by 50 at all levels. The Cooldown was replaced with 2 charges with a charge restore time that's much less, 80, 70, 60. Aghanim Scepter rework now grants an additional charge, increases cast range to global, and always cast Guardian Angel and Omni Knight as well as the target. So basically, he can do 4 of 5 people with Guardian Angel, and it's himself included. And it's global. 30-second Guardian Angel cooldown replaced with 15 Guardian Angel charge restore time. So you can end up getting that at maximum at level 15 to 45-second charge restore time. Well, I guess that's level 18. So at 18, you can have 45-second cooldown on getting charges. I mean, that's probably worse. It's going to be up more often because Omni Knight isn't a one-trick pony, basically. I like this change. I think it's interesting. Because now, if you can get it global at 15, that's probably the... When is it global? I don't remember. It's Aghanim Scepter. Getting it global is really big. Because then, you could have someone pushing, like an anti-mage or something, and he gets moved on, and you just cast Guardian Angel on him. Right? Big change. Alright, Oracle. Cast point improved from 0.15 to 0.1 on Purifying Flames. Just means it starts charging faster. No, sorry, that's the boo. So it comes out faster. False Promise cast range was decreased by 100 at max level. That's rough, actually. Fortune's End damage replaced with 60 enemy damage / ally heal per effect dispelled by Fortune's End. So it makes your Fortune's End better, which is probably... That's interesting. So if you purge a buff on an enemy, they take damage. And if you purge a buff on an ally, they get healed. It's kind of cool. Interesting. Sanity's Eclipse increased the cast range early. Radius early, I mean. His strength was replaced with Lifesteal. That's probably worse. Lifesteal is really nice, but he's worried about being nuked rather than staying alive. So this is probably a nerf to him, this talent. Pango got a base health regen increase of 0.5. That's really nice. Shield Crash damage was changed from magical to physical. Cooldown in ball form is now always decreased to 963, which just means the talent won't be necessary. So that just means that, when you're ulting, you always get decreased Shield Crash. And that talent was replaced with 80 Shield Crash barrier per hero. And the later talent, which was going to give Shield Crash barrier per hero, was replaced with Shield Crash radius. These are probably nice changes. I'd rather Shield Crash be physical. It's going to be earlier, harder to resist. Better laning. Later, it'll be easier to resist with the high armor heroes, but whatever, that's fine. Phantom Assassin got an int gain of 0.3 for no reason, and she got 5 faster. That's gross. But here come the nerfs. Phantom Strike no longer provides lifesteal. Duration was increased by 0.5, so she has a longer buff of attack speed, but no lifesteal is really bad. Phantom Knives damage type was changed from pure to physical. It does have a max health damage increase from 16 to 25, but obviously now that you can resist it with armor, it's not going to do as much damage most of the time. However, since it's max health damage, it will hit tanks pretty hard still. Overall, I would say these are nerfs for PA, which was probably needed. Phantom Lancer. Int gain was decreased by 0.2. Aghanim Scepter no longer increases movement slow, so it doesn't slow as much. So that's probably needed. Talent for Strength was replaced with Phantom Rush Agility, which is a nerf. Spirit Lance cooldown reduction was decreased by 0.5. That's also a nerf. So you can't just go, I cast Spirit Lance build anymore. You probably might still be able to do it, but you have to be careful. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Phoenix. Fire Spirits have a faster projectile speed. That's really nice. Easier to hit heroes. Sunray, Aghanim Shard movement speed slow, decreased from 12 to 10, meaning you move faster in Sunray. I think that's what it is, right? Does it slow you or slow them? I don't know. Whatever. If it's for Phoenix, that's a buff. It's for enemies, I think I have to check. Enemies. Okay. So it slows enemies less. Nerf. Spell Lamp, which is really nice, replaced with Icarus dive damage per second. That's a nerf as well. So overall nerfs, but I do like the Fire Spirit quality of life. Primal, they're only rock throw changes. Max travel time decreased by 0.2, meaning it happens faster. Fragment flight distance decreased, meaning it doesn't go as far. Fragment flight time decreased, so it's faster again. Fragment impact radius increased, so it's easier to hit people with it. Minor changes. They realized that's kind of a bad ability. Illusory Orb cooldown decreased by 1 second at all levels, making it easier for Puck to get out. The talent for Waning Rift Silence was increased by 0.25, and the talent for Initial and Break on Dream Coil was increased by 25 as well. Minor changes, but nice for Puck. Pudge's armor talent went up by 5. Meat hook damage went up by 20 on that talent. Minor. Pugnan got a base agility nerf, so less armor, less attack speed. Nether Ward had a cooldown increased by 5, which is a nerf. His movement speed talent replaced with Decrepify movement speed to allies, meaning that when he hits someone with Decrep on his team, they go a little faster. I would say these are nerfs overall, though. That's really painful, right? Nether Ward getting a nerf is painful. Agility nerf, all that stuff. Quap, Aghanim Scepter radius was decreased by 25. That's painful because obviously you want to hit everybody with it. The mana cost on Scream of Pain is now always 120, which is its 3rd level mana cost, making it harder to just run Scream of Pain and get farm like I did in one of my recent games. H Strength replaced with Shadow Strike, heal per tick. That's probably better. Talent damage increased by 5. Okay, that's nice. Sonic Wave cooldown reduction from 40 to 45. That's really good. And Sonic Wave damage talent increased by 50. So these are really good talent changes. Just nerf on the other abilities. Probably for the best, honestly. This is, I think, a buff to Quap overall. Razor. Damage drain rate decreased by 2 at all levels. So he steals less damage, meaning overall, mind you, but let alone... Okay, I see it. He steals damage much slower, but his link duration is now always 10, so he can steal it for longer. So he can actually... That will add up to having more damage stolen overall. I believe. Because 2 more seconds. So basically 8 times 22 versus 10 times, so 200. Yeah. So you get more damage maximum. You get the whole 10 seconds. Storm Surge. Damage rescaled to be lower, early, higher, late. Movement slow increased from... It's 5% more movement speed at all levels. 14 agility talent replaced with lifesteal. 14 strength talent replaced with static link. Steal 1 armor per second. That's a big buff. Stealing armor? Fuck Razor. As much as they nerf the drain rate, which I think is really big nerf, buffing everything else just makes me so sad. Alright. Ricky, Tricks of the Trade now costs less early but more late, which is really painful for his low mana supply. Rubik, int gain increased by 0.6, which is rather dramatic for his damage and magic resistance and mana pool. Telekinesis. Cooldown decreased at all levels. Aghanim Shard throw distance decreased by 15%, so he can't move someone as far, an ally, for example. Spell Steal. The projectile speed increased by 300, so he steals spells faster. His Telekinesis land distance was replaced with cooldown reduction, and his later cooldown reduction was replaced with Telekinesis land distance. So they switched them and they changed the numbers. Overall, I think these are buffs for Rubik. They're really nice. Sinking. Base int decreased by 2. Good. Burrow Strike. Damage rescaled to be just different at the mid-levels. Literally all they changed was that the 140 at level 2 is now 130. Every single other number is the same. So, like, whatever. Caustic. Base damage decreased by 20 at all levels. That's a really big deal. And his talent for Sandstorm went down too. So nerfs for Sand King. Hooray. Even though they're minor. Shadow Demon. Illusion damage decreased dramatically, actually. 10, 15, 20, 25. If I'm correct. Illusions now also have bonus base damage. Okay. So for a lot of people, the illusions will be more damaging. But for like a big... Like, I'm going to make an illusion of my, I don't know, my PA. That's probably a bad example. Drow. They'll be a little weaker. Shadow Poison is much faster. 200 faster. That's painful. I would say there's buffs for Shadow Demon. Shadow Fiend. Base damage decreased by 5. Base agility increased by 5. So his damage is exactly the same because he's an agility hero. Except now he basically gains a point of armor and 5 attack speed. Ouch. Shadow Shaman. Base armor increased by 1, making him a much stronger lane support. Aghanim Shard. Serpent Ward duration decreased by 1 second. So it doesn't farm as well, / affect team fights as well. They took away his 2-second Hex cooldown and replaced it with Hex damage amp. That's kind of sad. Overall, I would say the base armor is such a big buff that everything else is fine. Glaives now deal magic damage that doesn't pierce debuff immunity. This makes its damage effect debuff immune enemies, but it will be reduced by their magic resistance. Intelligence, the damage increased by 5%. So this is a nerf, right? Because now that it deals magic damage and not pure, because it was dealing pure if I remember correctly, right? I believe it was. But let's even say that it was magic. I'm pretty sure it was pure. Dealing magic already nerfs the fuck out of it. Then it not piercing debuff immunity, because it did, also nerfs the fuck out of it, because now you'll just be really resistant to magic resistance. Intelligence, the damage was increased, but doesn't matter. That's a huge nerf to Silencer. Good. Slithering Crush got its radius decreased by 25. That's good too. Harder to get caught by Slaughter. His Slithering talent went down. This Slithering talent went down too. So good. They're just nerfing Slithering across the board. This is exactly what's needed. Slark got a strength gain increase, an int gain increase, and his 15 talent and Shadow Dance regen went up as well. So they kind of want Slark to come back into the meta. And I can't complain. I don't play him very often because he feels kind of bad. So I would like to see like his laning increase, just tankier, more mana to work with, etc. They buffed Little Shredder. It does more damage now, which makes me really sad. Mortimer's Kisses, the impact damage was increased, so it actually hits you. It does 20, 30, 40 more damage. That's really sad too. It's a lot of fucking damage. Spectre, base health regen decreased by a whole 1. That's a lot. Dispersion, minimum radius decreased from 400 to 300. That means that if you're close to Spectre, it does even less damage than it did before. Reality now only triggers one cast of Spectral Dagger per illusion. Maybe you can't recast it or something, like jump around, which I don't think you could anyway, but Haunt, which is her Ag's cooldown, decreased by 20 seconds, meaning she can use it more often. And her 5 attributes was replaced with 100 Desolate ally radius, meaning that it's more likely to trigger Desolate even when allies are around, depending on the distance. So I would say that these first changes are really nerfs. But then she got a Haunt buff and a Talent buff. So like, I don't know. Might balance out. Spearbeggar, one of my favorite heroes. Movement speed bonus on Bulldoze decreased by 2, 3, 4, 5%. I mean, they buffed it recently, so that's just putting it back to where it was. They replaced the 25% greater bash damage with 17% greater bash chance. Charge of Darkness bonus speed replaced with Bulldoze grants a damage barrier. Greater bash chance replaced with greater bash damage. And Bulldoze all damage barrier replaced with Charge of Darkness. So basically they just mixed up all the talents, but to make the weaker talents happen earlier. I actually like the bash chance being at 20, personally. But the other changes are definitely nerfs. So nerfs to Spearbeggar across the board. They were needed. Static Remnant activation time was decreased, so it'll be able to pop faster. 0.25 seconds faster, which is a big deal. Sometimes people can be chasing you and they won't hit it at all because they move too fast. 20 attack speed replaced with 150 attack range when overloaded. That's way better. Actually, we like attack range here. Sven, int gain increased by 0.2. Aghanim Scepter now increases damage by 180 as Sven travels with the Stormhammer. So that's really big. So you can just be on you and just do a ton of damage. Is that just 180 on the Stormhammer? Still, I assume it means that the Stormhammer itself does the damage. Aghanim Shard, passive aura, and it also provides move speed. That's really nice. Good on Warcry. Buff on the talent. Oh, and they gave him, instead of Warcry movement speed, which they don't need anymore, they gave him 20% God Strength slow resistance, which was probably really needed. So these are really nice changes for Sven. Blast off, current HP self-damage decreased to be its maximum, which is the lowest. That's probably a big buff to techies. When she uses Psionic Projectile on Temporal Assassin, she deals 200 damage instantly and activates the trap as if it was fully charged. Meaning she can throw the trap and immediately appear at it, and it's as if it was a full charge trap. That's definitely a bonus. Terrorblade. Demon Zeal now applies to reflection illusions with 50% effectiveness. I don't remember what Demon Zeal even does. Okay, yeah. He gives himself and illusions bonus movement speed and attack speed. And now he can give his reflection somewhat of that movement speed, attack speed. That's cool. Terror Wave. Wave effects now follow Terrorblade and disappears if he is killed. So that means it won't maintain, basically. Ooh, they replaced this health talent with 20-second metamorphosis cooldown. That's really nice, actually. Still, I would say these are mostly buffs. That's nice. We're almost done. Tide Hunter. And thank God for that, because I'm not feeling good. Tide Hunter. I have COVID, by the way, specifically. Tide Hunter. Gush. Mana cost decreased to its level 1 value always. That's really nice for him. He has mana problems. Dead in the Water. That's the anchor. Attacks to destroy decreased from 5 to 4, which is just... people were realizing it was too aggravating. Talent for Anchor Smash damage reduction was increased by 5%, meaning that he can really reduce all of the damage that's being dealt. So that's a really nice buff for Tide Hunter. The Dead in the Water nerf is whatever, but I think these other changes are really good. Timbersaw. Base strength by 2. Strength gain increased by 0.3. I mean, more strength gain means he's tankier. More damage. Reactive armor max stacks was increased by 5, 4, 3, 2. That's funny. 5, 4, 3, 2. Which means he has just more stacks, right? Stacks per hero attack increased from 2 to 3, meaning it also gains those stacks faster. This is a big deal, because him having more stacks means he has more armor and more HP regen, so that's really nice for him. Level 10 talent, which was 2 in health, replaced with 0.2 reactive armor regen per stack, meaning he heals more, which is better than health. And his 15 talent, which was 6 reactive armor stacks in duration, replaced with 6 max / +1 hero attack reactive armor stacks. What that means is now his maximum number of stacks would increase from 42 to 48. And when he gets hit by a hero, he gains 3 reactive armor stacks, which is a really good talent, honestly. I think that's really nice. Good for Timbersaw. Tinker. Cast range decreased a laser by 150. Range decreased a missile by 500. Rearm now grants magic resistance for 4 seconds when he casts it. Warp Flare now also applies a root when he casts it on something. I mean, these are big nerfs. Big nerfs. The magic resistance is nothing. Who the fuck cares? I care a lot more about this laser and heat-seeking missile being shit. Good. Fuck Tinker. He has to go much closer to the action. I like that. Tiny. Bonus damage increased by... it now scales from 20 to 35. Cool on Tree Grab in particular. Cooldown decreased at earlier levels. Aghanim Shard now increases damage of thrown trees by 100, so if you throw it, it does a lot of damage. And Grow. Toss bonus damage increased at 100 at later levels, so just, him tossing you does more damage, right? And you can get toss charges, if I remember correctly, so you can do it multiple times. Treant. Aghanim Shard bonus speed, movement speed bonus decreased by a large amount. I mean, big nerf, obviously. That's what affects his Nature's guys, so he can run around trees. So he's slower now. Living Armor. Healed per second decreased by 1 at all levels. Mana cost increased by 25. Sorry, 5. Total, I don't know where I read 25. 5. And his Nature's Grasp cooldown reduction talent got weaker. So nice nerfs to Treant. Fuck you, Treant. Get out of my games. Troll. Aghanim Shard chance of extra attack per stack increased by 1%. That's really nice. Battle Trance now allows Troll Warlord to receive movement orders if there are no valid targets within range. That basically just means that if you're trying to get heroes and everybody blinks out or something, you can choose to run away instead of standing there like a fool. It's quality of life, but it's not going to change everything. Roller Sponge now deals 50 bonus damage, which is affected by crit multiplier. Critical damage decreased by 50, 50, 50. Okay, so 50% less crit damage, but a 50 damage added on. That's probably a nerf overall. You'd rather a multiplicative effect rather than a flat number. So it's a nerf to Walrus Punch, and that might be needed. I see him a lot in higher level games because of Snowball and stuff and Blink. And Kick. Underlord. Pit of Malice now deals damage upon rooting a unit. So it hits you, it damages you. Cast point improved, so it happens faster. Fiend's Gate cast point was also improved, so you can Fiend's Gate faster. That's really nice. Undying now takes Undying into account when counting nearby units. Mana cost decreased by 10. It just means he can heal better or bomb better because he's now counted. Tombstone. Aghanim Shard stun duration on Tombstone's destruction decreased from 3 to 2. So when you actually get caught as the Tombstone, like you're in Tombstone, you're bunkered. It gets destroyed, you're not stunned as long. Flesh Golem. Slow duration decreased by 2 seconds, so he doesn't slow you as long. So I would say, you know, overall buffs, but the Flesh Golem nerf is sad. That's fine, though. You can take that. Ursa. Base health regen increased by 0.5, making laning easier. Overpower has a slow resistance increased. So when he casts Overpower, he gets slow resistance. And increased by 5% at all levels. Fury Swipes, damage per attack increased by 3. 3, 2, 1, 0. So just earlier he does more damage. Nice. Venge. Nether Swap. Damage increased from 50 to 150, 300, 450, which is a lot. No longer reduces damage taken, which means that Venge is going to get fucking killed. Now it gives Vengeful Spirit and allied targets. Okay, they butchered the sentence. Now gives Vengeful Spirit and allied targets now. Said now again. They now gain a damage barrier for 10 seconds. Barrier health is equal to the spell's damage value, meaning that if she has a 450 damage value, when she swaps, it does a 450 damage barrier on herself always, but also if she does it on an ally, they get it as well. They buffed her talent on Wave of Terror. Instead of another swap cooldown nerf, they replaced it with Wave of Terror steals 20% of reduced damage and armor. And her Nether Swap damage reduction was replaced with Nether Swap cooldown. Okay. I mean, these are probably buffs overall. The increased damage is a really big deal, but also the damage block is really nice. Plague Ward. War damage was rescaled to be higher at all levels. That's gross. Noxious Plague. Initial damage was increased by 50 at all levels. Cooldown was decreased by 20-10-0. And they nerfed the Poison Sting slow talent. I mean, this is gross. I didn't want to see Venomancer back, so... Nether Toxin no longer breaks. Now it slows attack speed. 30, 40, 50, 60. I mean, the break was really important, but it's really nice to see the attack speed slow. Viper Strike now also applies break, so now it's on Viper Strike, which lasts 6 seconds, which means you can't move out of it, right? Movement slow increased by 20-10-0. Cast point improved by 0.1, so it happens faster as well. This probably brings Night Viper a lot better into the meta, because now Viper has a 6-second break that can be applied to you and you can't get rid of. Soul Assumption damage is now calculated before reductions. That means that even if someone reduces all damage taken, you still get your appropriate stacks of Soul Assumption, which means Visions just carries more stacks typically. And the talent for Soul Assumption targets was increased by 1, meaning the Visions can shoot it out and hit a bunch of people. So, but buffs to Visage, which I didn't want. Well, looks like about 140 is when I'm going to end this, which is fine. Void. Intelligence gain increased by 0.2. Barrier per hero hit on Resonant Pulse increased by 10 across the board. The talent for mana regen went up. So this is going to mean that Void Spirit has more damage, more mana regen, a bigger barrier, bigger mana regen at 15. So it's buffs to Void in general. They're minor, but they're still going to exist, right? Warlock base strength decreased by 2, making him squishier. Fatal Bonds now costs more, 10 more at all levels. Good. He has way too much mana. Weaver, his strength talent got decreased. His talent for Geminate attack no longer applies to attacks made via Shikuchi with Aghanim Shard, which is when it attacks everything, so you can't hit everybody with 3 attacks, basically. Power Shot now slows target up to 30%, decreasing based on time charged, and enemies already hit. Similarly to damage dealt. Mana cost rescaled to just be 100, which is his level 2 value always. I mean, nice slow, honestly. I think this is a really big buff to a Wind Ranger support. Wind Run no longer slows enemies. Corresponding Aghanim Scepter effect was also removed. Aghanim Scepter damage reduction was increased by 10%, making Wind Ranger take less damage. That's kind of cool. Gale Force duration was increased by 0.5, which is a big buff. And Wind Run radius replaced with 20% Power Shot slow. I mean, it's really interesting. I want to see how this plays out. I'm not really sure. I think this is going to be a buff overall. Winter Wyvern. Base mana regen increased by 0.25. Winter's Curse cast range was increased to its level 3 value always. Mana cost on Winter's Curse decreased, so it scales up to that 250. Now provides vision of the affected unit and their surroundings, so it's easier to hit them with stuff. That's really big buffs for Winter Wyvern, I hate it. Voodoo Restoration no longer deals damage. Heal increased by 10, 8, 6, 4. So Voodoo Restoration is a little better now because that's a lot of heal, right? And the talent for 1.5% max health Voodoo Restoration was replaced with 2% max health Voodoo Restoration. So before it did heal and damage at 25, now it just does the heal, so they buff the heal. From 1.5% to 2. I mean, honestly, that's probably better. I didn't really feel like the damage was that big of a deal. I kind of like the idea that this heal is just better. It's probably more meaningful. Wraith King. Cooldown increased on Reincarnation at late levels by 20. Wow. Aghanim Shard. Additional skeletons decreased by 1, so less skeletons. Aghanim Scepter cooldown reduction decreased by 15. So that's a nerf of 35 on his ult, basically. Talent for skeleton attack damage decreased by 3. Minimum skeleton spawn decreased by 1 on that talent. His cleave was increased by 10% though. And Zeus does 2 times damage to creeps with Lightning Bolt, which only really matters when he has his talent for AoE Lightning Bolt. Alright, well, that's a lot of changes. It took me an hour and 36 minutes. I don't want to keep the video going, but basically, we're going to have to see how it plays out. There's way too many changes to just look at something and be like, oh, you know, that's a thing, right? Because I'm sick, I'm going to sign off. I might end up playing games. I don't know if I'm going to do them on broadcast. I really don't feel good. I probably won't even end up playing. So I appreciate you guys for watching. I will see you all next time.